Welcome to Cape Fear Business Roundtable. I'm Frank Williams, and this is a new podcast focusing on interesting businesses, business people, business issues, and occasional nonprofits here in southeastern North Carolina. Today we have our special guest is Rob Kaiser, who is publisher of the Greater Wilmington Business Journal. Rob, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
Absolutely, and this is sponsored by both Pioneer Strategies and Pioneer Specialties, both of which I am a co-owner, and I'll talk more about those as we jump in a little bit later. But first, we'll jump right on in. Obviously, Rob, this is a fast-growing area. Brunswick and New Hanover and Pender counties have seen lots and lots of people move in. So there are people who have grown up here, people who just moved here, and people who have been here for a few years. Which camp would you fall into, and what changes have you seen since you've been here?
Yeah, so I moved in, so I've been here for 18 years now. I purchased the Business Journal in Wilma in 2007, and obviously there's been a ton of growth, which was one of the attractive things about coming here. One, obviously it's a great place to live and it's a great community, but business-wise, that was something I was looking at markets around the country where I could start or buy a Business Journal, and the growth potential here was a key factor in me coming here.
And where did you move from?
Just before this, I had helped start a Business Journal in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
And then I was in Chicago before that.
So a few different places. Well, what do you love about this area apart from business? Obviously, business is certainly a key factor if you moved here to purchase a business, but what do you love about this area beyond business?
Yeah. I'd say number one is the people. I describe this to people who don't live here as this is like the college everybody chose to come to. I think especially in the business community,
Absolutely.
There are so many of us who have moved in here and chose to move here because, obviously there's the advantages of the beach and the riverfront downtown and the weather and the easier lifestyle than a lot of the big cities. So I feel like and that to me it's a very welcoming community, and so I feel like just number one, just the people that are here, the openness to do new things and to jump on board with things that we're doing or other things that are happening in the community, and just think the supportive nature. So I mean, beyond the obvious, beach and climate type things, I really think that the people are the difference maker here.
Absolutely. I'm one of those unique people that grew up here, lived away for 20 years, and then chose to move back. So I can sort of see both sides of that. And so it is a place I chose to move back to for all the same reasons you just mentioned. The final opening personal question, or one of the final personal questions, is what is your favorite non-work, either place to go, place to eat, or thing to do in southeastern North Carolina?
Yeah. Probably say biking. I just say biking. I just when I can, probably particularly around downtown and extended downtown and Greenfield Lake, and sometimes I'll just kind of go a destination necessarily in mind. But I've found that biking, I've been here 18 years, and I have biked down streets that I have never been down before.
Absolutely.
So I think that is a recent activity. Has been just kind of exploring Wilmington on bike.
Have you done the Brunswick Nature Park yet?
Yeah. That's a lot. And I think I kind of had during COVID, I was on my hiking kick, and I think I did a lot in Brunswick County and around there.
And well, tell us a little bit about your career path and what led you from whenever you got out of college to where you are now, and how you became the publisher of a business journal.
Sure. So going way back, I say I have been in the media world since age 9 when I was a paper boy for the Pittsburgh Press. And I really went from, I was a paper boy, I wrote for my high school paper, I wrote for a local paper, my college paper, and then when I got out of college, I was a reporter at the Lynchburg News and Advance, and then I went to the Baltimore Business Journal, went to grad school for journalism. I was at the Chicago Tribune for a number of years as a business reporter. Then I went to Fort Wayne. Really, I got my MBA at night when I was in Chicago, and I was kind of looking for a path. Okay, how do I jump from the journalism side to the business side? And Fort Wayne gave me that opportunity. I was the editor of the publication when we started it. I became the publisher, and then I always say my one insight in life is that a business journal can work in a smaller market like this, because a lot of people in the business journal world think it can only work in a larger city.
Right.
So after the Fort Wayne experience, I looked around the country, where can I start or buy a business journal, and Wilmington fit everything I was looking for, and it was for sale at the time. So that's how I ended up here.
Well, and as a member of the business community, I'm glad that you're here and that you chose to do this, because it's good to know what's going on in the business community. And you don't typically get that from general circulation media. They might touch on it, but they don't cover it from the perspective of the things that a business owner would want to know about. So I appreciate you doing that. I'm going to talk about one of our sponsors for a moment here, and that's Pioneer Specialties. Pioneer Specialties is your promotional products partner, and with access to over 1 million products from 4,300 suppliers worldwide, they can put your logo on just about anything. And if you'd like more information about how they can help you, visit pioneerspecialties.promo. And yes, that is a correct domain extension, pioneerspecialties.promo, not .com. So hope you'll check that out. Well, jumping more deeply into the business journal, and obviously I think most people, if they've read the business journal, they know what it is, but it's much more than just a news publication. You've got events and other things that you do. Tell us about whatever you think people need to know about the Wilmington Business Journal that they might not know.
Sure. Well, you're right. The basic model of a business journal is you have your publication, you have your digital properties, which our main one is our daily emails. So we send out to 13,000 people every day the latest news and what's happening. We have our events business, which is a lot of different events we do, from the Power Breakfast to the Coastal Entrepreneur Awards to Healthcare Heroes. So it's really, and kind of each part of the business supports the other part. So people want to get the publication, they want to see the daily news, they want to come to the events, and I always think the events is kind of a live version of the business journal. You're actually hearing from the people we've been writing about. You're meeting other subscribers and other people that are a part of the community. So they all kind of play off each other. And like you said, I think I like business journals. I worked at daily papers and business journals. The business journals really give us the opportunity to go very in depth in terms of what we report, but also just in terms of the service we provide to the community and helping people connect and helping the community get together.
And if you're a business person listening to this and you've never been to a business journal event and you want to meet other business people, I mean, I've seen, I'd say 400 and 500 people at the Power Breakfast. Is that an accurate number? I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah. No, we'll sometimes, we always have at least 400. Sometimes we get up to 600. So that's our quarterly, that's kind of our quarterly standard event, the Power Breakfast, and then we have a number of other awards programs and other events that are annual.
But yeah, there's certainly packed events with good content and also good people to network with as well. Well, talking about events, I know you've got some events coming up, including one that I think is a fairly new event. Can you talk a little bit about what's coming up and what people might want to know about?
Sure. So our big project for the past year and a half now has been Feast Wilmington. So this was actually Mayor Safo's idea. Our region has never really had a big food and wine type event. So if you think about Charleston, wine and food, and other similar events around the community, around the country, Wilmington, for whatever reason, has never had a large event like that. So we were in discussions 2 summers ago about, okay, do we start this in our community, and who's going to do it? So we ended up being the ones to kind of take a hold of it and grow it. So we launched it in March of last year. So Feast Wilmington, for the first version in 2024, was 4 different events at Live Oak Bank Pavilion, 70 plus chefs, 20 plus breweries, wine, spirits, music. So really out of the gate was a really big festival. 3,000 people came through. And then we only had 6 months to put that together. So this year we've had the luxury of, we got one under our belts. We've had an entire year to plan the festival for this year. So we're doing the large events again at Live Oak Bank Pavilion on March 29th and March 30th. Again, 70 plus chefs. There's a different theme to each event. And then one new thing we're doing this year is what we're calling feast experiences. So on Monday to Friday, on that last week in March, you'll have the opportunity to have a different experience at a different restaurant or event venue around town, where it's a little more intimate. You can hear directly from the chefs, and so it's kind of the next step in developing this. But what we've seen is, and I think everybody's seen this, the quality of our restaurants, the talent we have with the chefs in town has always been good. And probably if you think about the last 4 or 5 years, it has really grown with some of the new restaurants we have. And so the goal for Feast is to give, really highlight the quality of the chefs of the restaurants here and expose people to restaurants they may have never been to. And so you go to an event, we got 20 to 25 different chefs restaurants there. You get little samples and drinks, everything's all inclusive. And just last year, there's so many people out with their phones writing down which restaurants they want to go try after they get their samples from each of them.
Absolutely. How does someone find out about the event or find out how to register and purchase tickets?
Yeah, you go to feastwilmington.com. You can find out about all the events and descriptions and menus, and then you buy tickets off the same site.
And that sounds, food is certainly one of my favorite things. So that sounds like something I'm certainly gonna, if I'm in town, I'll probably be there. And that's, and you're right. This area has a lot of good restaurants. And when people come here, I know when I travel, the first thing I tell people about is where did I eat? And I don't know if everyone's wired that way, but if I go to Austin, Texas, I may not tell you anything else I did in Austin, Texas, but I'm going to tell you where I went to eat and whether it was good or not. And I think that's part of the experience of anywhere you visit, and certainly here. And that sounds like a great event. Are there any other events you have coming up that you think people might want to know about?
Yeah. So one event we've done for a long time is the Coastal Entrepreneur Awards, which we partner with UNCW on that. So that's, every year, we'll get 80 to 90 applications of local companies that, are applying. And, even though we are in the business of, knowing about local businesses and what they're doing, there's always so many startups or even established businesses that are entrepreneurial. So that's always an inspiring event each year to see. So we have 11 different categories, and you learn about, at the awards event, you learn about them, and then you also, at the end of the night, we have a group of judges that has met with all of them, and they announce the overall Coastal Entrepreneur of the Year. That'd be a good one to check out. And if you go on our website, if you go to wilmingtonbiz.com and click on events, you can see the next Power Breakfast, the dates and everything for the Coastal Entrepreneur Awards, Healthcare Heroes. So that's kind of a good place to keep up. And the other thing is sign up for our daily emails. So whenever you're getting our news emails, you'll also get the event updates as well.
Absolutely. And I would encourage anyone who wants to know what's going on in the business community here to definitely sign up for those daily emails. I think the Entrepreneur Awards are a great thing. I had the opportunity to serve on Brunswick County's Economic Development Board for several years. And, we obviously put effort into recruiting businesses from other places to come here, but it's amazing the businesses that pop up right here in our own backyard that people don't know about. And I know we've got several here in Brunswick County that people don't even realize are here, and they're doing amazing things, and they're homegrown. And that's, to me, that's one of the best ways to grow your economy, is to grow it with people that are already here and have good ideas and either a product or service that's marketable. So I think that's
amazing. If you look back, we've been doing the Entrepreneur Awards now, I think since 2009. And if you look back at the winners over the years, how many of them have then ended up on the Inc. list of fastest growing companies in the country? We had recently Topsail Steamer, which was a overall winner previously of the Coastal Entrepreneur Awards. She was just on Shark Tank, and she's growing nationally. So it's really a kind of a good early indication of the real up and coming companies and fast growing companies in our area.
And if a business starts here, you don't have to question whether or not they have roots here, because it's where they started. So hopefully they're going to still be here 20 or 30 years from now and not just be headquarters hopping looking for some incentive or low tax rate. They'll hopefully stay here and create jobs here. So
right.
I'm going to talk briefly about actually, I'm going to ask you one more question before I talk about our sponsor. Obviously, you've been in the media business in some way, shape, or form. It sounds like your entire career. So, what do you love about what you do? Obviously, there's got to be something you enjoy about it, or you'd have found something different to do along the way.
Yeah, I think my three big interests are journalism, business, and community. So, when you think of my job as a publisher of a local media company, that's what it is. I'm not that involved day to day in the journalism reporting side where I started my career, but I talk with our editor and reporters and about those things, so it kind of keeps me in that world some. And then we're running our business, but our business is being in touch with other businesses in the area, which
Absolutely.
I find interesting. And then naturally, as a part of my job, being involved in the community and with the chamber and with Cameron School of Business, and so just very very involved in the community, which I think especially in a community the size of Wilmington, you can really get involved. You can get your arms around things. You really get to know people, so that's a rewarding aspect of it too.
And business community can make a big community seem like a small community when you get involved. I mean, that's you go to the business events, and yes, there are a lot of people there, but there's a core group that you will get to know and you will see over and over, and they're the ones who make things happen, and that's probably who you get to interact with on a pretty frequent basis.
Right, and that's exactly to your point. Whenever a new person comes in, say just show up. Come to our events, come to
Absolutely.
chamber events, come and you'll start to meet people. Will introduce you to other people, and if you make the effort, it is not too difficult to get plugged in and build relationships.
And I lived in Raleigh for 20 years, including college, before I moved back home. And I went to a Raleigh Chamber event about 3 months ago, and I was amazed at the number of people that I still knew from being in the chamber 20 years ago when I lived there.
No, well,
You walk back into a county of 1 million people, and you see the same core group of people in the business community that were there 20 years ago when I was a young Turk just starting this business. So and I
yeah.
think the same thing can happen on an even bigger scale here. Well, to talk about our second sponsor for a moment, Pioneer Strategies is a public relations and strategic communication firm based here in Leland. And I would encourage you to visit Pioneer Strategies' website to learn more about how they can help you build success through effective strategic communication. And that website is pioneerstrategies.com. Well, moving on to a few, I guess, reflective questions. What are some lessons that you've learned along the way that you wish you had known when you started your career?
Yeah. I say number one is I think early in your career, you kind of think, okay, we have to figure everything out, or it has to be a perfect situation. I think, particularly in business, oftentimes it's you just got to jump and start doing something, or, if you wait to figure every piece out or for the perfect situation, it's not going to happen. So I think that, that's a lesson I've learned along the way. And then probably the second one would be, ask for help. I think, people
Absolutely.
in business, everyone's been through things in their careers, and I find people love to talk about what they do. They love to help people, and really, if you just ask and say, hey, we're trying to, like, Feast is a good example. I mean, I've been here for a long time, and I know a lot of people, but we have never done an event, especially of this scale, with
Absolutely.
restaurants. So I went to some local restaurant owners and just said, hey, help me understand this. How, if we say we want to do something like this, what's going to be important to you? And I mean, it was really amazing with Feast. The people that jumped on and just helped guide us and helped at the events and everything. I mean, it really was the community coming together to
Absolutely.
pull this off from like nothing. We didn't have a brand for it. We didn't have anything. 6 months later, we're holding a 3,000 person event with 70 chefs, and it's only possible because all these people kind of jumped on whenever we asked for some help.
And I think most successful business people love to mentor other business people. They love to be asked for advice. And going back to the just jump in and don't feel like you have to figure everything out. I had a boss years ago. Before I started my current business, I was in insurance sales, which was not my thing because I was 25 years old and all of my friends were broke at that point. So it was probably not the right business. But my boss came in and looked at me one day and said, "What in the world are you doing?" I said, "I'm working on my sales plan." And he just looked at me kind of rolled his eyes and said, at some point, you got to quit getting ready to get ready and go do something.
Yeah.
And I remember that because he was right. I was just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, trying to avoid picking up the phone and getting out and doing what I needed to do. And I was waiting for it to be perfect, and it was never going to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah, you do just have to jump in at some point,
Absolutely.
and you know, you can, you know, obviously you plan, and I would say, like, you have a theory for what you think something's going to be or what's going to work, and then you test the theory, go do something. It's never perfect, and you always have to iterate, but you just got to
Absolutely.
jump in and start doing it, and then you figure out what the business is.
And no matter how well thought out your plan is, one of my veteran friends told me no plan survives contact with the enemy, so you might as well just go ahead and go do something.
Yeah.
Well, one final personal question. What kind of podcast, other than hopefully this one moving forward, do you listen to?
So my number one podcast is Pivot. That's Kara Swisher, who's a former Wall Street Journal tech reporter, and Scott Galloway, who's a marketing professor, investor. So they're both very sharp on business, technology, politics, but they're also just funny. And so that one, they come out twice a week. That one I rarely miss. And probably my number two one is Brian Windhurst and the Hoop Collective, which is just an NBA podcast, which just always keep up with that, and it's kind of a get my brain off of business for a while, and kind of tune into what's happening in basketball.
Absolutely. My prior guest that I interviewed a few minutes ago is a chef, and she said she does not listen to food podcasts. She listens to politics.
Yeah.
Just because she doesn't want to get her mind, she wants to get her mind off of food. So I can understand how that can be an escape from what you do all day. Was there anything else you want people to know, either about yourself or the Business Journal or about Wilmington, before we wrap up?
Also, the only thing I want to mention is we also publish Wilma.
That's
I'd
right.
probably say one of the biggest things we have done, and probably the most impactful thing we have done, is the Wilma Leadership Initiative, which this year is celebrating its 10th anniversary. So we're going to be doing some special things this year for that. But the Wilma Leadership Program has a lot of components. We have content in each issue of Wilma and digitally about profiles of women leaders in the community, ways to get involved. But one big thing we have is the Wilma Leadership Institute, which is a 9-month program that 48 women go through each year, and people need to apply for. We have a Wilma Leadership Accelerator event in the summer where we bring in speakers. We have a mentor program. So I would say, for people who aren't familiar with that, whether if you're a woman who wants to get involved in it, or if you're a company where you want to get your employees involved, a lot of big companies are sponsors of this here, and I think their main value there is they may have internal leadership programs, but we get them connected into the community with nonprofits, with peer support groups and things like that. So that's, if people aren't aware of that, if you go to wilmamag.com and go to our leadership section, you can get involved there, and also sign up for the Wilma emails, follow us on social media. You can stay in touch with that.
And I certainly encourage anyone who's interested in that, who that struck a chord with, to go check it out. I'm a huge believer in those kind of leadership programs. I was 2 years ago in Leadership North Carolina, and the programming was valuable, but more valuable were the people I was in the room with every day because of the connections I made. There were 55 leaders from all across North Carolina, and it's amazing what you can learn from the people at your breakfast table at those events, and the connections you make with people who are doing things in the community that you would never know about if you didn't get out of your silo and go talk to them.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's funny because the components of the Leadership Institute, we'll bring in the big CEOs and the mayor and things like that to speak, which is great to get that exposure. But every time when we have a graduation event each year, and folks will get up and say what they got out of it, each person is put on a peer advisory group of 8, and they're all from different companies, different backgrounds, different focuses, and learning from your peers.
Absolutely.
And being able to talk openly about opportunities, challenges, that, just having that trusted group is even more important than hearing from the biggest CEO in town.
I've observed people in leadership North Carolina 2 years later getting together for dinner just because they happen to be in the same town just to talk about things. So I heard someone once say, and I believe it's true, that relationships are the currency of leadership, and that's a great way to build them with other people who are in a similar leadership role. Well, I
Mhm.
appreciate you joining us today. You're one of my first three guests on this brand new podcast, so I greatly
Mhm.
appreciate you taking time out, and I hope people will sign up for your email list and attend Feast of Wilmington and the other events that you've got coming up. If you're listening to this, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you'll go to capefearbusiness.com and sign up to get updates on future guests and also to follow us on social media. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.